Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Rick and Morty, which we'll be getting into today. I'm Dylan Hysen, and welcome to our final panel of the season for Season 3 of Rick and Morty. This time, we will be getting into the Season 3 finale, of course, the Rickchurian Mortydate. A lot to get into with this episode. This is our panel discussion where, as you guys must know at this point, our 10th panel, or 9th, or I don't know, where we, our panelists will be
Dylan is good at counting.
We had like one in the break, I think it's 10, where, our panelists, who I'll introduce in a second, answer questions about the latest episode of Rick and Morty every week, and they'll be graded on their answers on the basis of correctness, originality, and reasoning. Remembered all three, finally. So, check us out, overlyanimated.com, and make sure to subscribe to our Rick and Morty iTunes feed, Rick and Morty Overly Animated. Search for that on whatever app you use, and you'll be good there. We will be continuing Rick and Morty podcasts for a little bit, and at least into the off season. I'll get more into that later, but just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it, and then you don't have to worry. So, check out our recap podcast, earlier in the week on the Rickchurian Mortydate. Highly controversial reactions already, and that's great. But I will say, as we get into the beginning of this panel here, I am in particular looking for divergent opinions than the ones expressed on the recap. So might get bonus points there. Let's bring in each of our panelists. No specific introduction, but they'll say hi and then answer our first question, which is, what is your grade for this episode, the season 3 finale, on a scale of A to F according to your rating system? So let's start off with John McKenna.
Hi, everybody. And I'm going to give this one a C. And I'm kind of disappointed, actually, because this was the season finale of such a fantastic season, and it ended with a very hollow thud. Having said that, there were a lot of positive. The fact that you had Rick and Morty coming in to help the president and basically just showing off how great and powerful they are, even Morty, and the president getting more and more frustrated, had this great sort of cartoony, laid back quality to it that was very enjoyable, and it was hilarious. The story with Beth was not as successful, I thought, because you had Beth constantly trying to figure out if she was a clone or not. And apparently it was solved when Jerry kissed her, which, sure, I mean, I didn't mind that personally, but at the same time, it kind of teased that we were going to find out, and yet still we never actually found out. I was happy with not finding out because I don't think the show was going to reveal it anyway, but it was just a bit of a hollow tease. And then the fact that they're going to try to reset back to season 1, listen, guys, you can't do that. You can't wipe the board clean in the beginning of the season and then wipe it clean again at the end. It just doesn't work. You can't unring a bell. You can't take out food from a gator's mouth. It's an okay episode. I wish there was more from a season finale, especially when they set the bar so high. So it's a C.
Okay, very reasonable take there from John. Let's bring in Andy Potter here. Andy, what's your grade for this episode?
Hey, Dylan.
And welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. I've been gone for a little bit. But this episode for me is a D. But I think this is important. This is like a really important thing to go over, because the beginning of this episode, the first like 17 or so minutes, is a solid B. Like if it continued momentum, I'd probably give this episode like a B, maybe even a B plus if the ending was good. But then we get these last 5 minutes that are really just not good or interesting, or just really just frustrating in a lot of ways. And there is the argument of how you can separate those two things and say, hey, I had a really good time at the beginning. But there's a point where you have to look at an episode and be like, this is a whole thing. This is a unit of entertainment. And if the whole thing does not stand up, you need to just say, this doesn't stand up. It didn't stand up for me. It didn't stand up for a lot of people in the fandom. I'm not as like crazy like mad about it as other people, at least for like the quality problems. But what I am upset with is there's a lot of just out of character moments here. And maybe I'll get into it a little more later when we get stuff, because there's too many examples, I think, in this episode. But the main one for me is Morty. It just seems like a lot of things Morty does at the end of this episode are just completely random, as well as the stuff that the Jerry and Beth stuff was just really not interesting or good to me. But the real offense is just Morty being really way out of character at the end. It just doesn't seem like something Morty would do at this point in the show. So that's why I gave this episode a D.
Okay, reasonable take there from Andy. Andy says, not as mad about it as some people, not calling out me, Delaney, and Michelle, but he was. So
I was more calling out the fandom because I think you guys gave fair reasoning.
I think we're the most upset about the episode out of anyone I saw. I don't know.
There were some people in the fandom who were like burning, like quote unquote, burning down like stuff in the comments. Like they were really, really mad. Okay, yeah. You guys at least gave reasons for why. Well,
of course, we always give reason takes here.
Yeah,
and sometimes Rick and Morty fandom in some places is not the most reasonable. Also, we should say Andy returning from his 5-week ban from the podcast after I relegated him to the minor panel. After he performed too poorly for several weeks in a row, he got relegated Premier League style. And he did win the last minor panel, and now he's back here. He made his way back up to the Major League. So congrats on that, Andy.
I'll just say thank you and let this go.
Okay, good.
You can call it self-imposed, that style. Because
no, I imposed it was me. That's what I'm claiming. It was all calculated. Okay, let's bring in our next panelist here, Brit Griffin. Brit, what's your grade for this episode?
I give it a B-. Like, the first half of the episode could have been anywhere in this season. Like, it was very funny. I shipped the president and
yeah, who are
Rick,
you? Okay.
myself.
Oh, okay. And
I think the president is definitely in love with him. I think that is very solid. Morty didn't do a whole lot. The family, there were some funny jokes. I think Beth's definitely a clone. Like, watching this episode with that in mind, a lot of the characterization made, like, more sense. Morty running away at the end did feel like a little bit of a revert, but it also goes back to something I thought before, that he would just, like, keep his feelings about it inside and ultimately want his parents to get back together. But it did feel like the last 5 minutes were what they wanted to spend the original, but they wanted to spend the finale on before they realized they weren't going to get the same number of episodes. Mm-hmm. So, but I did think it was funny, and I do give them some points for that, so that's why I gave them a B and not a C. Or a B- and not a C.
Okay. That's a reasonable take. Funny, so it gets a B- from Brit. Yeah, before the podcast, you were trying to get into who you were shipping the president with, and I cut you off, but apparently it's Rick, so okay, interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely in love.
Okay, I don't know if I read the episode like that, but
they're both power hungry.
Yeah.
He stared off into the distance while listening to a love song. I think that's pretty definitive.
Okay, he did. Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Rick didn't give him pants. Why else?
Yeah.
Because they both like to swing their dick around.
Yeah, that's true. That was
maybe together.
Oh,
at the same time.
Getting a little.
Have fun, 4chan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We already know that.
We
already know that Rick is the top, so I guess the president
wait. Why do we? Wait, hold on, Brit. You have a chance. Brit, hold on. You have a chance to earn bonus points here. How do we already know that?
Because we saw him do it with Jerry in that one episode during the psychedelic scene.
No, they kept flipping around. They kept rolling.
No. There was a part where Jerry was definitely on the bottom and Rick was definitely on top.
I mean,
but that's Jerry. Jerry's always going to be a bottom in any sort of relationship.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
is he? He wanted some of that sweet chicken.
What about with what about with Sleepy Gary?
Or a poopy butthole.
What? No, that's Morty, right? But okay.
It is Morty, but I thought there was a scene where they did it together too. Never mind.
I don't think so. Okay, I don't know where to go with that, but yeah, Rick was the predator and Jerry was the prey in the psychedelic. That was reasonable, a reasonable take. Okay. Anyway.
Plus, the president just seems to me like somebody
who likes it on the bottom.
He wants to be on the bottom.
Okay.
You know how really angry. I guess this is an R-rated podcast. We talk about, you know how in porn when the really powerful, angry top dom person gets shoved on the bottom and they like it. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
I've never seen porn in my life, so I cannot comment.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So yeah, that's what you have to claim on the public record, sure. But okay, we're already off the rails here. 10 minutes in. Good job. Congrats, Brett.
Don't you people hang out on Reddit? It's kind of hard to miss.
Is that being discussed? I don't think the Reddit's writing their
it's impossible.
Yaoi/fics, are they? During the...
Oh yeah.
Well, they're too busy shit posting about season 4 already.
Well,
so.
like that's obvious. That's good.
Why would you ship post about season 4 when you can write yaoi fanfiction? They just have their titties all in the wrong knot.
Look,
What?
Okay. It should be pointed out Brit has wine, for the record. So that
I've had like 3 sips of like
Well, it's working.
really shitty Cabernet.
Okay.
Half an hour in.
Already good. Yeah, we're only 10 minutes in, Brit. Pace yourself. Okay, we'll come back to this very important.
Brit is over 21. Let's all keep that in mind,
Yeah,
kids.
I am 24.
Everyone's over 21. Yeah. John's really trying to keep his clean image going. We're not buying it, but
I'm not clean. I am not clean. I watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Yes.
They pixel everything good out, so meh.
Okay. Interesting. Look, I was worried this panel would be too negative on the episode, but I'm glad we're introducing some levity here. I think we'll see if the people like this. Let's continue though. We'll come back to this very important yaoi/fic topic as we go on. Very vital part of the episode. Alex Bonilla, you haven't even answered the first question yet.
Yeah, I've already forgotten what I was going to say after getting my mind distracted by all the sexual deviance. But
what's wrong with sexual? What's wrong? Never mind. Just continue.
It's fine. It's just there wasn't much of it in this episode, so it felt a bit off. But anyways, and for context, I gave Vindicators 3, which is my least favorite of the season, a D+. So this one ended up at around a C-. I think it suffers a lot of the same problems we discussed last week with the ABCs of Beth, where it starts out very goofy and all, but then they want to try sneaking in serious themes at the end of the episode, and they handle it in such an ambiguous way that it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And in both episodes, this happened 2 in a row. So that's like the whole argument that this is like just part of finalifying the thing. I don't totally buy in just because the fact that this has happened 2 episodes in a row, unless like by ABC's of Beth, they were already getting into this issue. But also from a humor sense, I feel like the entire B plot of Beth, like thinking she's a clone, and all, like it dragged a lot in several parts, and especially the last 5 minutes, there were barely any laughs to be had. And that's what I go to Rick and Morty the most for, humor. Whereas the A plot with the president and Rick, like it's very goofy, like the beginning of ABCs of Beth, and gives you a lot of lines, especially from President Keith David, who I loved in this episode. So it all evens out to being just a mediocre episode.
Okay. Yeah, but okay. So are you claiming that the last 5 minutes of the episode, we can exclude the stinger, was what they were going to do anyway? Because like, of course they finalified it, because this is, unless you think that this was how episode 10 of the 14 episode season was going to end.
Well, I just mean that episode 9 suffered the same issues. So I feel like it's not exclusive to the finalifying. It just feels like
you're saying
way
the problems aren't on the finalifying of the ending.
No, like part of it is.
I feel like the entirety of ABCs of Beth was leading up to that conclusion by revisiting her childhood and her vision of herself. But
I mean more the leaving ambiguous part, and like that. While it is thought provoking, it's not entertaining. Like there's a line that you have to walk there, obviously.
Would you have being preferred
a smart comedy and being just a drama? But like Rick and Morty isn't drama; it doesn't focus on these serious themes. It has to do comedy as well, and it didn't work on either side.
I like it when they do drama. I wish they would do drama and comedy in balance. So, like, I like that they do dramatic things. Otherwise, the show gets boring because it's very repetitive.
Right,
yeah,
but just
do comedy. That aside, would you have preferred they had ended it last episode? Like, that would be the final episode? Was the ABC the best?
Thinking in hindsight, it almost feels like a better finale.
Yeah,
like if this was the alternative, then yeah, like that honestly would have.
Like I had switched them around and just cut out the best part. At the end of this episode, we've done something else.
Right, but I don't want to focus too much on the finalifying, because just like in a general sense, just this episode had moments that were funny and moments that dragged, and it just wasn't very consistent. It just leads up to the ending, and so all in all, it just ends up being
that's that's pretty accurate. Like when Dan Harmon said they had to finalify it, you could see how it was finalified. It was a good episode in the beginning, and then it kind of Neil Gaiman'd itself. It fell off toward the end and sort of rushed everything together.
Okay,
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that reference.
That's not gonna land with me in digging Neil Gaiman, but it's
No,
I love Neil Gaiman.
Yeah,
I love his work too. I always get bothered by how he ends.
Okay, we're not gonna get into it.
Rushes.
Okay, so Alex claiming
he didn't do that with Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Okay.
Or
Reel it in slightly. Okay, let's we have a lot of people here.
Never mind.
Yeah, we have a lot of people. Alex, so Alex claiming that the finalifying wasn't the problem. Me and Michelle and Delaney may be claiming that was a huge problem with the episode. Decent take. Okay. So I mean, I definitely disagree that the ambiguity is the issue. Like, I think the ABCs of Beth ambiguity was excellent, and that episode stands alone very well. Like, if you can go anywhere with that, and I think the ambiguity at the end of this episode is a lot worse, but that's just my take. Okay. So grading. I'm glad we only have 6 questions here because it's already too long, but, John gets a 5. That was a very good answer. Andy and Alex get 4s, solid answers. And then Brit gets a 5 plus 3 bonus points for her nonsense already. So, I don't want to encourage the constant interruption, but the slash fic stuff was very good. So we're gonna encourage that. Okay. Brit with the strong lead here already. And I think I told her at some point to justify it, and I thought that was successful. Whatever. My grading's great. Okay. Next question. What is the funniest line of the episode? Maybe you guys have the hang of this question by now. We'll see.
Nope.
Maybe you guys love satisfactory answers. Any line, it's another funny episode. You know, despite any problems with the ending, I definitely claim that it's very funny. A lot to choose from. Andy, what you got?
Oh man, I'm looking at my list because I picked out 3 lines.
Andy,
here.
come on. You have your first choice. You can pick your first choice. Come on.
But the problem is my first choice.
Andy, say the line. Say the line.
Okay, it's when someone it's right after the guy touches Rick and he just dies and the president asks, "Okay, what was that?" And Rick just says, "Death." What kind? Instant. Like, it's just how concise Rick is with this. It's just like, you just saw it happen. He just dropped to the floor. He's dead. It's instant death. I don't know how much more you want here. And it's just like, just this whole, like, I love these kind of deadpan things. I just really like these kind of lines just because, I don't know, it just really exemplifies Rick, and it really just shows how little everyone else in the world really understands how he works, because he's pretty upfront when he makes threats, and I don't think most of these, almost never do they believe him in episodes like this, and I just found this line really, really funny.
Okay, that's Andy's choice for best line. Brit, what you got?
The casualties will be in the Brazilian.
Okay. A pun is a bold choice for best line.
I enjoy puns.
Okay.
Is there something wrong with puns? I laughed really hard.
Okay. Yeah.
Rick thought it was funny.
Yeah, I love how he tried to explain it afterwards. Like yeah, because you're Brazilians, get it? Like, it's like, even when you do a pun, you feel the need to explain what the joke is.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a threat. It's a threat. It's a pun. Nobody understands me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly how it was.
It was a good sequence. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Interesting choice there. Alex, line of the episode.
Tell him Rick and Morty just blew off America. Cut to intro.
Okay.
Like, it's just not nice way to enter the episode. Just setting up very quickly what the conflict is going to be, and the delivery is very serious, and it's just an absurd line that these two people just gave the middle finger to the entire country. So
yeah,
I enjoyed that.
Okay, and that's the guy that died just from touching Rick. So tying it all together, that was him. Rip. Rip. Okay, John, bring us home. What's the funniest line of the episode?
I got pubes, Commander Queef. That part for me was just so hilarious because when I was thinking back when I heard that and watched it on the second go around, it's like season 1 Morty would have been mortified if Rick had said that line to the president of the United States. Season 3 Morty is just fine, just letting it rip right to the president. I just loved that. It's just, Morty has been great all season long, and the fact that he was able to just tell off the president like that, yeah, it's something a 14-year-old would say because he thinks it sounds cool, but it was still great just the way he delivered it when he was berating the president for being just a civil servant and how he's technically his boss. So I thought that was just it was a funny line. It was a great Morty moment.
Okay. Great Morty moment. Yeah, not a lot this episode, so that did stand out. If there's one thing I've learned from these 10 panels, guys, it's that our senses of humor are very different, because once again, I did not like these choices for Best Line. Really, any of them. I didn't really like, I think you guys didn't even hit any of the top 10 lines of the episode once again, so let's go through them individually. So Andy, that was more of a gag, and you didn't really cite one line, you cited a dialogue sequence, which I think you knew that I was going to criticize. But Dylan, the better line is what Rick says before it. I guarantee you're going to die if you touch me, and there's no afterlife. Everything just goes black. That's like a one sentence quotable line, very funny. I agree what Rick says after that is funny too, but, I don't know. It was okay. 3 points. Brit, the pun, I admire picking the thing you laughed at hardest, but 2 points for a pun. I mean, come on. Alex picked the best one somehow, and it wasn't even that funny. That was just a very good line in the context of the episode, so 4 points for him. And then John, I don't know. I didn't find that one of the best lines of the episode, but it was a one sentence thing, and there's a Morty line, and there weren't that many. 3 points. Okay, so.
Okay, I can't wait to hear your options. I
said them on the recap podcast. We can go through all of them. Anything involving Minecraft, which you guys have not, maybe you'll get into that in gag, which would be a good choice. But, the Kennedy sex tunnels line, Lincoln, he didn't free them all. That's a great one. When did I sign the bill that Ghostbusters aren't cool anymore? We're just going through here again. All the Minecraft stuff, the pirates, stand down, he's not afraid of pirates. Oh, run.
The pirates aren't
It's not a line. Okay, true. So hopefully you guys will pick that in gag. There's a lot here. Okay, so, but interesting choices. No one ever comments on whether they agree with my line choices or they agree with yours. So I don't know, but, let's move on. I think we're as always, part 2 of that is the gag question. So we'll see what you guys pick for that. But before that, what is your MVP of the episode? Which character? And there aren't a lot of choices this episode, I would say. So this is one, and I would ask that you each not pick what the person before you picked, Alex.
That's gonna be so hard for the last person.
But yeah, there aren't a lot of good choices here. So Britt, you're starting us off here. Who's the MVP?
The Mr. President.
Yes.
And his cute little butt cheeks, and how in love with Rick he is, and how he is like, there's pants in the Pentagon. It's in my contract. Does he keep pants everywhere the important that he goes, just in case? Is there a specific person that carries around the pants? I don't know. But he was like, there's cancer, I'll take it. He's got balls, man. He puts his money where his mouth is. And he gets in a literal fist fight with Rick, and he has Poseidon trapped somewhere, and he's like, you must submit to me. And he also has a god complex, and if him and Rick get together, they will have a biracial Yowie love of America. It'll be very patriotic and very god complexy, and it'll just be great.
Britt,
he was my favorite.
Have you written the fanfic?
And I liked it when he got shrunk and he got a weird voice, and I'm like, that's what my life is like.
Britt relating to Keith David President. Okay. I please try to relate every answer back to the Rick ex-president. That'll be successful. But, Britt taking the best choice off the brute force first, Keith David President. Alex, who's your MVP?
Well, second off the board has to be Rick, right? Because he is a strong part of this episode, very ruthless in killing off all the president's men, engaging in, I think, an entertaining fight with the president, like a little more entertaining than the one in Rest and Relaxation, I want to say, just because of how wacky all their stuff is. And also at the end, just like the fact he turns into fly fishing Rick, which is pretty awesome. And like the idea that he takes the time to fix things while his family is falling apart in his eyes on the side. And then just that ending shot of just him seething, it mirrors, I guess, the reaction of a lot of people who watch this episode, probably. but Rick was solid from beginning to end in terms of jokes and in terms of just how he acted around everything.
Yes. Okay, good. I agree. Second off the board. That is the second MVP. But what will John and Andy say? John, you're up.
I'm gonna go one step further. MVP of the episode and MVP of the season, Morty. Because this was the perfect culmination of Morty as Morty's growth arc in the season was in this episode. Here he is, He's playing Minecraft. He's doing all the stuff that you expect like Morty to do, but at the same time, he's going over to the White House. He's now with Rick on missions. He's telling off the President of the United States that I'm actually your boss. Like we've got this. This takes like all 2 minutes. He's confident. He's out there. He's forceful. He's taking charge. He even when he runs away from Rick, he is doing so because he has to get away from Rick to protect his family. He took the initiative. He stood up to Rick when he came back. It's just Morty has been so good this whole season, and it came to a really fine point at the end where he was able to stand up to all these people that he would have been afraid of in seasons 1 and 2. So for that, I got to give Morty MVP honors.
Okay. That was, look, that's what a well-reasoned answer can get you, because Morty is super weak in this episode, but you kind of sold me on this being right in line with Morty's arc this season. So I did like that reasoning. Andy, I don't know I don't know who you've left to choose, but who you got?
There's Dylan. All right, I'm just gonna be straight here because it goes Keith, David, Rick, Morty, and then literally no one else in the episode does anything that's even close to good.
I think you have a choice here. I think you have one other character who you could argue for.
The only other character who has any substantial amount of lines is Beth, but she's completely one-dimensional. And then Summer has almost no lines in the episode. And then that's just it. The rest of the characters
who you got? Take a minor character then.
What I'm saying is that all the other minor characters are so minor that they're essentially gags. And I've gotten in trouble with picking minor characters that are, and you said they're just gags. So I'm kind of stuck here, Dylan. So
pick someone. Come on, go. Pick someone, Andy.
You've literally set me up for failure here because
I'm just rotating down the list. I didn't plan this.
I know you were. I'm blaming the rotation, not you.
You could have argued Jerry because he made Beth fall in love with him again. That would have been fine. You would have gotten at least 4 points if you had argued it well.
Well, not with Dylan, because Jerry does not deserve me of MVP, even if he is.
Look, Andy, Andy. I think Morty sucked this episode, and John just got 5 points because he killed that answer. So you could pick, and you can pick anyone. Like
no. Well, that's the thing, Dylan. You can explain why Morty was good, and you can
gotta pick someone, or else I'm going to answer for you.
I'll do it, Dylan. I'll do it for you. So here, I picked Beth. Beth was she had a funny B plot. She had progression, at least reversion, and it led to some interesting, funny conversation with Rick. But if I say that, the problem is that Beth is actually completely one-dimensional. And that's the truth for every other minor character that I could pick. They're all completely one-dimensional. And that does not make an MVP. And so I have nothing, Dylan.
Okay.
I'm set up for failure. I just admit it.
Andy's not good under pressure. That's what we've learned from this.
No, this is not pressure, Dylan. I'm literally...
Let me make the Beth argument for you. So I think Beth, for 70% of her arc, was good. Like, I think her freaking out about being a clone is good. I think that, happy Beth is very good. I think her line at the end of the episode, the season 1 line, although I hate the reset, I think that's a very funny line. You can argue that she's happy again now, and that's a good thing. Also, or you could take the other side and say the MVP is Beth, because what we see here is clone Beth, and real Beth is off being awesome somewhere else. You can make that argument.
But the thing is, she actively makes the episode worse. Whether her character
it's not. Yeah, okay. So I don't think it's like Beth's fault that the episode's worse. You can make an argument.
I think it is.
Look, here's who else you can argue.
It's completely her fault. If she didn't freak out, this episode would have not gone to where it did, and we wouldn't have that stupid finale ending.
Okay.
She is completely the reason this episode is bad.
Why are you blaming Beth? Like,
whoa.
This is not it's not the character's
fault.
Fictional. Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, this plot, I found it funny. I found the idea of her thinking she's a clone a funny idea. And it did make me laugh a couple times. But she didn't ever go into, or they never wrote her in a way that let her go into any depth into it. We never got any nuance.
Yeah. Look, how about this? How about this? Do you think that's a sign that this is clone Beth, because we really don't get into depth with her in this episode?
No, I think she's not a clone, and this is just poor writing.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a fair take too. I think that's the fourth option here. You can make arguments for any of these minor characters. How about Madame Gargantuan?
She had literally 3 lines.
It was a good line, though.
But they were all great.
I think
that doesn't make it
look,
MVP,
he's got to pick.
though.
I would have picked the Spy Kids twins, and then they died.
Oh my
they
God,
died
that's so
tragically.
funny.
That's a gag.
They had candy and then they started fighting each other and forgot about the candy.
Yeah.
Dylan, if
That's
I
great.
picked the Spy Kids twins, you would have 100% said that was a gag and given me
Look,
0
okay,
points.
you made it worse though because you're getting a -5 for not picking anyone for 5 minutes.
No,
one
Dylan,
minute, one minute for each minute of your deliberations. Brit gets a 5. Brit picked the best answer. Alex picked the next best answer. John picked I didn't agree with the answer, but he reasoned it very well. 5's all around. Andy -5. Okay, there you go.
By the way, just before we move on, like, do I have time to talk a little bit about Morty?
Yeah. So, what do you think of John's answer as Morty the MVP?
Yeah, because like it was a running joke that I chose Morty as my MVP for several of the episodes.
Was that a running joke? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a running
Okay.
joke, believe it or not. It was only funny to me and maybe 2 other people, but
I thought it was funny. I googled.
but I find it like looking back, I haven't chosen Morty since Rest and Reclassation, I think. And it's just interesting because like from an intellectual standpoint, I can understand where Morty's gone, right? Like he has enough confidence to stand up to Rick. But like from an entertainment standpoint, it feels almost weak in like seeing Morty do this, like just go back to his like normal family life. And like, no, I don't want anything really to do with you, Rick. I just want to stay with Jerry. Like, even considering that Morty like has made jokes in the past about how it's Jerry who needs them, not him needing Jerry. So like, but it's just weird. Like my relationship with Morty right now is just very weird because like I understand why he's in this position, but that makes him less interesting of a character to me.
Honestly, I actually think it makes him more interesting because now you have, instead of just Rick rolling over everybody to get his way and Morty being along for the ride, Morty is now a more active partner in that grouping now, and he now challenges Rick.
They're closer to being equals.
Right? Yeah. They're never going to be equals. At the end of the day, he's still Morty. He's still Rick. But the fact you have that dynamic, it opens up so much more possibility and so much more interesting development through their relationship that you didn't get in seasons 1 and 2, and it makes it so much more interesting I think it makes the show a lot more interesting when it's actually Rick and Morty, not Rick and Morty.
Can we go over those differences again?
No,
It's Rick
I
and
get it.
Morty versus
Okay,
Rick.
I got it. Okay.
Dot, and Morty.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to the dynamic developing itself in the next season. But just like right now, like Morty having the ability to refuse what Rick, if Rick wants to take him on an adventure, and that just opens the possibility for more plots where Rick and Morty are on separate planes, and that's just not a show that I'm interested in. I'd rather have them together. But now that Morty has developed the confidence to say no, that just gives the show more options to separate them, and that's not what I want.
But that's not even the problem. He said no at a time that Morty wouldn't say no. Like, he's constantly been the guy who's been against the stubborn asshole, even if it's like, and he would 100% be the guy to say, hey, Rick, beat up the president because he's being a dick. Like, in every other season, he has been doing things like that. But for some reason, at the end of this episode, he just says, nope, I don't like this, Rick. I don't like you beating up this asshole. This one's the wrong one to beat up, and I'm just going to go live alone. And it's like, it just doesn't make any sense with his character this season. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
I also think it does a bit though. I mean, he's actually putting other people ahead. He's putting other people ahead of him. Like he's protecting his family. He's seeing Rick as, maybe not this out. He's seeing Rick now more as who he is. He does, Rick is very self-absorbed. He realizes that I can't keep going on like this and not knowing what the consequences are. I know what he's like. I need to make sure that other people are safe from him in case he goes nuts. And I have to actually take on the responsibility from what I've learned being with him. So I think it actually is a natural conclusion.
Well, the thing is, I think all the things you're saying are true. I just don't think they apply to this situation. It's just not the situation.
Yeah, let's conclude that. Yeah, I think John's making a great. I didn't even think about it in these terms. Morty at the end of the episode, his actions are like just completely in line with his arc this season. I think that's definitely what they're going for. with him just being fed up with Rick and trying to protect his family and taking his own initiative. I think this episode is very emblematic of them being somewhat equals now because everything the president says, Rick and Morty, like they're a unit. They're the people that are like protecting America. It's not like they're not singling out Rick here. It's Rick and Morty. I think this episode does a great job of establishing that. But I also agree with Andy because I just don't think it makes any sense, the impetus for, like, why is this the last straw for what Morty's doing? Like, nothing in this episode in particular happens that's,
Is it because he believes that he's going to kill his mom and Morty doesn't believe she's a clone?
Right.
I don't think Morty was
That's
ever
what
there
I
for
took
that
it as,
conversation.
and he was just wanting to protect his
Right,
family.
like that's the implication. It happens in like 5 seconds, and there's been worse things that have happened, and we don't get any time to explore what Morty is thinking or like how Rick is really reacting to that. Rick doesn't even do any, like this. I never sympathize with Rick, and like it's almost like unfair, like that they're assuming that Rick is gonna kill her or whatever. Rick doesn't even do anything. It's like his old actions catching up to him, which is fair, but just
he does bring a very large gun.
yeah. Which we'll get into soon, but it's just I agree that this is a good conclusion for Morty's arc, him separating from Rick. I just don't understand why it is happening in this episode. The episode itself doesn't do anything to convince me that now is the time for this, and it feels very low. It feels like a very high stakes action given a very low stakes episode. It definitely feels tacked on for an episode that was already there, in my opinion. But I think John's argued very well for this being, I think we had a great Morty arc the rest of the season. Him getting more and more fed up with Rick and gaining more equality to Rick and separating from him. So I think that the ending is where we're going anyway. We just had like less episodes to do it. So we kind of just did it here because that's all we had. Unfortunate. That's my interpretation. Anyway, we'll get more into this as we go because we have a long form discussion question. But before that, lightning round here. Funniest gag of the episode, which I think we've laid out the options for you guys, so I expect good things. What's the funniest gag of the episode? What concept did you find funniest, Alex?
Definitely the shrinking presidents. Just like from the very beginning when they begin insulting how it's, the 70s called, they want their shrinking back. And then just him going to this little kingdom, having to be naked because his clothes don't shrink with him. And then he grows back, and he has to wear that very humiliating shirt. And just like the voice changes as well, like while he's shrinking. I think he says something like "kiss my shrinking ass." Yeah. So all that was funny.
Okay.
It was "eat my shrinking ass," but still funny. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that correction's true, but I like the correction. Actually, good choice there, John. What's your gag of the episode?
I think my gag of the episode is when the president and Rick were is when Rick killed the bodyguard and he didn't want to leave until Morty got a selfie with the president. And then the president said, now you can't leave because you killed one of my guards. And Rick's like, well, I'm not leaving because I don't get a selfie. But you can't leave anyway. You're right. But you're not getting a selfie. You're right. So I'm not leaving. And then it's like, right. Hey, wait a minute. And it's him threatening to keep Rick there, but Rick actually wants to be there. It reminded me so much of Bugs Bunny cartoons where they're getting into an argument and it's like, yes, no, and then Bugs will switch the answer around and get the other guy to say what he wants him to do. It was a nostalgic laugh for me. It just sort of shows that like you have Rick just basically screwing around with the president like he was doing this whole time. It was so clever. It was still really fast paced. It was dark as hell, but because people are dying, and he's like, well, you're forced me to stay here, but I want to stay here anyway because you're not taking a selfie with Morty. And Morty's like in the background saying, I'm fine. But it's like, it got to be this just sort of half dick wagging competition and half just messing with the guy. And I thought that was just a great exchange.
Okay. I guess that's a gag. It's really more of a scene. I do like highlighting the scene. We'll get more into this later, but yeah, I think that is a good scene to highlight here. Andy, what's your gag of the episode?
Obviously the best gag was Beth falling in love with Jerry again.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Can something be both funny and sad?
Oh my god, I hate you.
Yes, it's called Jerry. Jerry's funny and sad.
Okay.
Extremely funny and sad.
Actually, so
if I could give you points, I would give you points.
For a real answer, I think the funniest gag was Rick being afraid of pirates, because it implies that Rick is actually adjusting a Wikipedia page of himself, or that someone else knows he's afraid of pirates and adjusted it for him. And I just love this. I just love all the pirates coming out of the woods, and Rick just, the visceral fear in his voice, like, Morty, run, that was real! And he just jumps away. That whole interaction was great.
Okay. Very good there. More on the grading in a second. Brit, what is your gag of the episode?
My gag of the episode was Minecraft.
Yes.
I'm gonna build this wooden. I have wood now, so I can build a chest that I can store my wood in for making more chests.
Yeah, just making fun of Minecraft, yeah.
Just basically making fun of Minecraft, and they did it in VR, and they're like, South Park did this 4 years ago.
Yeah, I was
basically just making fun of Minecraft.
I was gonna ask, I'm not really hip to the times. Is Minecraft still a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that died 2 years ago.
My sister plays it.
Not that I'm aware of this, but the children it's the most popular game with kids, I think.
Yeah.
All the children that I have ever babysitted to play Minecraft.
It's the most popular YouTube game and the most popular game with kids, I think, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it felt like a joke that I would have seen 3 years ago. That's why I was like, wait, is that still a thing?
There's I think hundreds of YouTubers that make a good living just playing Minecraft on YouTube. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Of them.
Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I should do after
that.
The first two answers. I know, right? We're not getting anything for this podcast. Why don't we just play Minecraft? But
I'm up for that.
Yeah. So after the first two answers, I was like, we just never learned what a gag was this season. we just haven't learned what okay. What was Alex's answer? I don't even remember at this point.
The shrinking president. Okay. You said it was good.
It was it's almost I feel like the gag is the bad, the outdated technology of Rick's version. That's a great gag in the episode. That's definitely one of the top 5 gags of the episode. And I feel like you just highlighted the whole scene, which is not really, but the concept of him shrinking and then coming, it's close.
Yeah, I was trying to focus more on the process of him shrinking,
right. I don't think that's
him as he came up, and then looking weird as he came back.
That's not as solid of a gag itself. Still a good answer. I gave it a 4. I would have preferred a more literal gag. I think the outdated technology is a great gag. That would have been a great answer here. John, I think that if you went in the direction of Rick needing a selfie with the president, and that's the whole impetus for the fight, that's a great gag. That's a concept, a general concept. I think that would have been a 5. As is, I'll give it a 2. And Andy, had the worst answer I've ever heard in the history of, the panel earlier, when he could not come up with an answer for 5 minutes, and people turned off their podcast because they couldn't handle it. And they turned it back on, I guess, because they wanted to see him lose. But he's triumphed and come up with one of the best answers in the history of the panel right after. Wow, what a comeback. 15 points for both.
I literally wrote that down. It's not fair.
Were you actually going to say it?
Wait a minute. Wait, he doesn't deserve points for saying it and then saying my real answer
No. It's a 2-part thing. He made a great joke to start, and then he gave the best gag of the episode. So Brit gave Minecraft. What did Andy say? The pirates. That's all. That's a top 5 gag of the episode. Yeah. So he gave a real gag, which you guys have trouble doing, and had a really funny answer. I was going to give double points for the first person to say an actual gag, and Andy killed that. Okay. Brit said the actual number 1 gag of the episode. Solid 8 points there. Bonus points for actually identified a gag. So, okay. Andy has come back from the dead, I think, and catapulted into a tie for second place, although Brit is leading heading into question number 5.
Wow, 15 points. I'm in second place.
That's how shitty your first answer, your last answer was. Okay, so, here's our long form question. And, this is a lot, we're already 45 minutes in, but, here's the question I've written down. Do you believe that we're actually doing this reset? Do you think we're actually going back to season 1, but more streamlined, like Beth says? And what do you think of the decision to reset Beth's character and Beth and Jerry, if you think it's real? So do you think it's real what we're doing? And what do you think of that decision? If so, or even if not, what do you think of its placement in the episode? John, you're up first here.
No, you can't go back to season 1. Too much has happened, and that I felt was the weirdest and weakest part of the episode, as I mentioned earlier. You're trying to reset all this craziness, all the stuff that the writers put this family through. Jerry and Beth get separated. Rick becomes a god. Morty becomes a lot more self-aware. You can't go back to season 1, and you're never really going to. Look, the fact of the matter is, it does create a whole new. What they've created is a new dynamic going into season 4. They've created a situation where you have Rick's now firmly established in the family. So as Beth said, there's no fear of him leaving. There's no fear of him running off because if Jerry stays, because Jerry's there, Rick is going to be there anyway. He's now just part of the family. Beth and Jerry are back together again. They've worked out their differences, I think. And even though things are going to be back to the nuclear family unit, there's still too much. Again, too much has still happened. You have the Council of Ricks is back. You've got, you have Morty that stands up. You have, we still don't know if this is a Beth clone. And, it's like, I'm so confused as to why you would spend the first episode of a season wiping the slate clean, then go through a whole season, and then wipe it clean again. Like, what's the new starting point? It just doesn't make any sense, and I don't think you can actually do that, and I hope they don't do that.
Okay, so you don't buy it. Why did they do it here, though?
Honestly, I think maybe in the minds of the writers, like Dan and Justin and all the rest, season 3 was sort of like the experimentation season. It's the, how far can we push this? What ideas could we possibly do? How can we really push the boat out? And then having this be sort of like the season in isolation that you put on the shelf, you look at, you marvel at, and then you have seasons 4, 5, 6, however long they want to go, be sort of, okay, now let's go back to season 3. Let's take what worked, look what didn't work, and then sort of see if we can make that last 2, 3, 4 episodes. So maybe this was just sort of the trial season, the breakout season, the let's go nuts season. Maybe that's why. Okay.
Reasonable. As a reasonable explanation I've heard as any. So, very solid answer there from John. Andy, why don't you get in on this? Is the reset real? And, why do it?
I think the reset's real, but first I think it's important to separate what we're talking about from how poorly it's presented in the episode, because it is presented very poorly. But if we just look at what they're actually saying and not the execution of it, I think this actually makes sense. Like this reset to a streamlined season 1, what they mean by that, I think, is what you guys were actually talking about earlier. We're going to have a season where the A plots are going to be Rick and Morty going on an adventure together with a sci-fi trope, and the B plots are going to be just the rest of the family doing something else now, but in a B plot. And so I think that's just what it is. It's season 1 over again, but with better fleshed out characters for the rest of the B plots, but they're going to be a lot funnier now. And then we have Morty being a lot more assertive, so that's going to be a lot more interesting on the A plots, and that's just going to lead to a better season, I think, a better viewing experience. And then the reset with Beth, I think that's the part I'm a little more unsure about, but that's just because I think it's very poor writing. But if we imagine 3 more episodes here, build up to this, and then we get this stuff that happened, I could see this making sense. I could see Beth going back with Jerry as this really stupid decision she makes when she thinks she's a clone. And again, I'm not sure what she is because, again, the writing is very poor, but I'm fairly certain she's real. But I think this is where we're going. We're going back to a streamlined season 1. Comedy shows have to make a decision. They either have to mix everything up completely, which they tried this season a little bit. They tried mixing everything up a little bit with a little more dark and stuff like that. Or you can have a pendulum where you go back and forth between what you do each season, where you have a season where you kind of go back to your quote unquote roots. And then you have a season where you're a little more experimental, and then you go back to your roots and then experimental. And that's what comedy shows do. And Dan Harmon's done that with Community. Community does that a couple of times where there's a season of this just really pure, really funny stuff going on. And then there's these really weird episodes of just experimentation. And I think that's what we're going to have here. We're going to pendulum back to season 1, and then we might have a more season 2, 3-ish type thing after that.
Yeah, that's a great point. bringing in, and a Community reference is always a great way to earn points on the panel, but Community, like, several times brings in like a new main character, a character leaves or something, I think happened once, and then they try to reset things and start over from a different structure in the beginning of next season. Yeah. Does feel very Community-ish if we're just trying to go back to season 1 next season. So I can buy that. Brit, why don't you get on in this question? And Andy claims he's pretty sure that this is real Beth. Also answer why you think this would be clone Beth, in addition to whether you think the reset, is real and why they did it.
Clones are very much a sci-fi trope, and they play with those a lot. Beth having different feelings currently than, like, her memories of, Jerry. She just running back to being with Jerry. She looking for Jerry for support. It feels very like walking backward very, very quickly. Which I guess you could argue was something that a woman would do, but I just don't think that Beth would do, having all this like self-reflection of who she is. Even if she decided to stay with her family, she's not going to decide to get back with Jerry. Like, that's just not something we've seen, especially at the end of Pickle Rick when she's going, just all of Pickle Rick. She did. Best characterization doesn't go in that direction.
Yeah, so
she's a clone and she is going Blade Runner. As I don't know if you've all seen Blade Runner, but it's basically
the new movie's coming out. You don't need to spoil the new Blade Runner movie, but
I'm not going to spoil the new Blade Runner movie. I'm basically going to say that they are fake people that are clones.
Okay.
Harvested. They're giving fake memories, and then they sort of develop feelings about those memories. Beth is developing feelings about those memories that were implanted in her, much like in that movie.
Okay.
And she's very intelligent, so she becomes self-aware. We saw that. She freaks out. She goes to someone who in her memories was a emotional, developed person in her life, and she sort of does things that she rationalizes that our Beth would not rationalize. And I think for a little bit, it's going to seem like we're having a season 1 reset, and then real Beth's going to come back. And everything's going to go completely off the rails again, because I think if they're going to push the envelope, they're going to keep pushing the envelope. I know he's done this before with Community, but that doesn't mean he's going to do it again. This is a very different type of show than Community. It's a lot darker than Community, and just
yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I think, yeah, you kind of just answered everything right there, tying into Clone Beth. So that was great. So you saying it is Clone Beth because this isn't how real Beth would act, and it makes sense that, a clone would react in a different way to their implanted memories. Okay. But that's the best explanation I've had. Cause my question is like, Clone Beth would just behave the exact same way if it's a separate instance of Beth, but you're tying it into an already existing sci-fi property and you're relating it. Okay. And then you're also saying that no, the reset isn't real. And the reason they did it is because they're going to subvert it next season when real Beth comes back. Right. That all,
and then she has to, and then my personal thing is they're either going to have fake Beth choose to save with Jerry. The kids are going to have to decide whether they want real Beth back as their mom, if they're okay with it or not. I don't think Morty is, but I think Summer will forgive her.
Summer digs it.
Yeah, Summer was into it.
I think Summer would dig it. I'd be like, oh my god, Mom, but I wish you would have told me, kind of a deal. Whereas Morty's going to be like, no, you abandoned us, and be real pissed for ever.
Okay, so yeah, great answer. I do like the concept of both Beths existing at once next season. So I think Brit's answer here is the best case scenario. Like the reset's a fake out, and real Beth's coming back, and it's Clone Beth, and they just kind of ended it here because this is what happened. So definitely reasonable take. I'd love if that happened. Alex, close us out here with your take on reset real and why.
I think the reset is real, but like, at least to me, I think a lot of this depends on how you interpret season 1. Like, when I began watching this show, like I saw it as, oh, okay, sci-fi sitcom. That's fine, and it's got a lot of jokes. That's good. And like character development didn't really start becoming important till season 2, like where you start introducing a lot more elements. So like when I hear season 1 but more streamlined, I hear more focus on jokes, character development. We tried that. And it was fine, but a lot of work. So let's go back to season 1. Focus on the jokes, make it funny. And but also in season 1, you had this nuclear family set up. So it seems like with the introduction of what I believe to be Clone Beth, you're just setting it up so it's back to the same construct of Rick and Morty living under the Jerry Beth house. I've expressed my disappointment with how they handled Beth this entire season, including this final development of just like seeing how Beth was like sort of developing into her own person after the divorce, but now it's kind of just back to the same old, same old. And if that's what they want to do, that's their prerogative, but it doesn't make for interesting watching on that front, like seeing Beth and Jerry just, I guess clone Beth and Jerry can find love. That's perfectly fine. But like me knowing that real Beth is off somewhere, that's always going to be like, okay, when is she coming back? But you also have evil Morty and Tammy just floating around.
There are infinite Beths and infinite universes. Does that mean that we're like,
yeah,
isn't
this clone Beth just as real?
Did you just steal a Beth from a different universe?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe, but like, it's like a save point in a video game, right? Like if you use the same save point but you play it twice, yeah, you can end up with different results, right? So I guess it's kind of like that, where you have real Beth doing one thing and clone Beth deciding family life is fine. So like all in all, I'm just very lukewarm on it. Like season 1 was fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't character and plot wise. It wasn't interesting, but it had funny episodes. And if that's what Rick and Morty wants to be, I'm perfectly fine with it. But like all this lets me know is that like season 2 and 3 was a lot of character development that they tried to do, and season 4 maybe wants to be more focused on what they started with.
Yeah.
I think that just goes into them not like how this season just took forever to write, and they realized it's a lot harder to write a season if you're adding a lot of character progression and stuff like that and reasonable reactions from characters. They might just be like, we can write a season a lot quicker if we do it like season 1, and that could honestly be an impetus for what they're doing here.
Yeah.
I really hope they don't do that, because season 1 was my least favorite.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
Well, but at the same time, though, you have to think it's like you still kind of needed a season like this to build out the characters and experiment with relationships. And the good thing is that, you know, that's why I don't like the idea of them resetting, because it's like, you know, because you've taken away a lot of the, there's no longer the whole Rick Jerry tension with Beth caught in the middle. Morty's, a lot of the characters have improved a lot. That means you can do a lot more with them. Like you can have a Rick and Summer adventure. You can have a Morty and Beth B plot, and Morty can carry it now. Rick and Jerry even can works now. So, I mean, it was a needed invest. It was a great season. Though it's also a needed investment for the show's longevity.
Yeah, and we'll get into the seasons comparison in a second. I think it's a good take by Alex that the main difference between season 1 and seasons 2 and 3 is that they just hadn't started any plot or arguably character development. They introduce a lot of what ends up being plot elements in season 1, but they're not plot elements until retroactively. They introduce these concepts, they don't build on them until the later seasons. So if they say we're going back to it's like season 1, I agree. The first thing you think of is a show that's just more focused on being funny and not sequential. So I think it's interesting if that's actually where we want to go. And there are potential production reasons why, although I'm skeptical that writing the character arcs is like the part that takes them a while. I feel like, it's like this episode's not funny or clever enough. Like that's my impression of why they keep going back over episodes several times. They have such high standard for, the humor levels. But anyway, those are all great answers. Just quickly, are we all like, I'm just very genuinely infuriated that Beth and Jerry are together at the end of the season. Our discussion here didn't like focus too much on that. Do we share this take?
I think I touched on it. I think I touched on it, and my opinion's clear on that.
I called it from the beginning that was going to be happening.
Yeah, but what's your opinion on it though? Do you like it?
I don't mind it terribly. I actually kind of think it works a little bit better to have Beth and Jerry under the same house, just because of
the show dynamic. Like that's clearly what they're going for. I just think it's like there's zero build up to this in the season.
Yeah, and like you mentioned on the recap, I think what's most infuriating is that Jerry has done nothing to like impulse this. This is the clone Beth just showing up and initiating the relationship again. Jerry has done nothing on his own, but once again, that's his entire character.
It kind of fits with that. It really feels like we missed 3 episodes of them setting this back up. I don't know if that's what it was or if this is like a fake out. But either way, it was just infuriating for me to watch. Okay, so 5 points for everyone on that answer. All had unique, different takes. Plus, Andy's going to get a +2 points for the community reference. I'm trying to see if he can come back here. So let's go into the last question. Rapid fire here. We're already way over. So what's your initial take? We haven't had that much time to process this. On how season 3 compares to the first 2 seasons of this show. If you want to give me a season ranking, that's fine. But I'm really just looking here, like season 3. It's the best, the worst, middle, and is it close? Is it not close? Who went? I don't know. Andy, you're up first.
Yeah. If you asked me like 30 minutes after this episode 10 ended, I would have said season 3 was in the middle. But having time to sit on this, having time to rewatch episode 10 and see just how good this season was overall. We really only had 3 duds, and even then they weren't really. I still laughed at all 3 of the episodes. None of them were Get Swifty or the pilot or anything. They were all enjoyable episodes of television. So I think this season is, I'd say, easily the best season.
Easily the best season.
Yes, easily, and that's because of consistency. Because there's the peaks and troughs are a lot closer together than other seasons, and it really only loses me in the last 5 minutes of the season. And that, if we're looking at the whole season as a unit, it really doesn't take away from my enjoyment of this 10 episode little romp we've had. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. Brit, season 3, better or worse than the first 2 seasons?
It is my favorite of the 3 seasons. I really hope it is indicative of things to come. I like when there were 2 duds. The second Vindicators episode was. This episode's ending was bad, but like the first half of it was quite funny. If it had been somewhere else in the season, with a different ending, I probably would have liked it a whole lot. Overall, this season has given me things that I really wanted, which is Beth and Summer becoming like actual characters and having like a greater expanded universe. I really liked the return of Evil Morty. I really liked all the Ricks doing things on their own. That standalone episode. I really liked the Rick Mansling the Stone with the
Max, is that what you're saying?
Yes, thank you. I finished my wine with Mad Max, which is my favorite of all sci-fi dystopian movies, because go girl power. I really wish April was here to back me up. And like it started out on a high note and it ended on a low note, but like the things that we accomplished over the like season make this the best one. Season 2 was funny. Season 1 had the puppy episode, which is one of my favorites because puppies. And, but none of them are bad.
Okay. None, yeah, all good, but season 3 is her favorite. Alex, your take on this?
So I guess I'm the only one who didn't think season 3 was the best then.
John has not talked then.
Oh, John hasn't gone yet. Sorry. But just season 2, I think, was just more consistently funny. Season 3 had higher peaks. Like Tales from the Citadel is still my favorite episode of the entire show. But Vindicators 3 was a dud to me. Morty's Mind Blowers felt mediocre. This episode is mediocre. The ABC's of Beth was okay. But just like a lot more clunkers that compared to season 2, which I felt like only the Purge episode was bad to me. Like every other episode I enjoyed fully.
Even Get Swifty?
I like Get Swifty. I'm in the minority in that, I know. I enjoy that episode. But season 2, very closely season 3, and then a bit of a drop to season 1. That's how I have my ranking. And also, just to fit this in, earlier in our mid-season panel, we talked about comparing this season to the season of BoJack Horseman. At the time, I said BoJack Horseman was in the lead very slightly, but Rick and Morty could pull ahead. I don't think it pulled ahead. I think season 3 of BoJack was firmly better now that I have the full season with me.
Firmly better. Okay. I'll comment on that later. But season 2's best, says Alex. John, what's your take here?
3 was the top for me. I mean, every episode was... I mean, there were great episodes and there were good episodes. There was no real episode I didn't like. I mean, there's definitely going to be episodes when I look back, like Whirly Durly, Vindicators, maybe even the finale, that I'll forget exist when I rewatch the series in 10 years with my children. So I'm calling it right
This
now.
is the show you're going to watch with your children?
Yeah, unless they're born already, it's inappropriate for them. Yeah.
No, it's like my kids when they're age of 6, they're going to watch Rick and Morty. They're going to read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I'm going to show them how to use a Swiss Army knife.
Gotta teach them nihilism one day.
Yes, they're going to be instilled in it early. Damn it.
Young, okay.
But no. But getting back to this, it's like the episodes were so good. I love when they do character development. They were able to really get into the philosophical nature of the show. They were able to stay dark without going totally nihilist. Everything did have consequence. It was good. It was great to see Rick's vulnerability throughout all this. It was great to see Morty rise up. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of with Andy where, I almost fell out of love with the season because of the ending. The season finale was a clunker, and I am disappointed because it really let down the season. But looking back on it, it's like complaining that Michelangelo's David has a crack in his heel. It's still an amazing statue, and this is still an amazing season.
Okay. I think these are all reasonable takes, yeah. It's interesting that 3/4 say that season 3 is the best. Clearly, if you go on certain places of the internet, we'll be like, season 3 sucked. Clearly. But,
they also don't like the female writers, and they can...
No, it's like...
Yeah. Fuck them.
my tushy.
It's like I understand the controversy of season 3 because like a lot of people were sort of worried that the show was disappearing up its own ass,
which it wasn't. I think until I actually think as I said on the recap podcast, I feel like the stinger of this episode is the first time it's ever repeated itself. Anyway,
oh my god,
they got close to disappearing up its ass, but they stayed just enough away for it. Like they walked that line really well.
My take on this is that I think that seasons 3 and 2 are very close. I put out my complete Rick and Morty episode rankings on overlyanimated.com if you want to see every single episode of the show ranked. I have 3 tiers. I have an elite tier, a great tier, and a good tier. No bad episodes of the show. I have 3 season 3 episodes in the good tier and 4 season 2. So I do think season 3 is slightly more consistent, although they're similar. They're both great seasons. My initial take is season 3 is better, but I do think the ending, I don't agree with Andy that you can just ignore the ending being bad. Like season 2 ends so interestingly and season 3 just it's so infuriating.
What I meant by that is that you can ignore that when you're looking at consistency of a season.
Right, yeah. You can't let it bias you too much towards the more important factor of the overall. But anyway, this is a really consistently great season of television. My take is it's better than this BoJack season, I think by a pretty significant amount. But compare it to like a BoJack season 3, and I think that it's similar. In general, I have Rick and Morty is a better show, but we can get into that more at our end of the year awards show. But it's so I'm on the season 3 is slightly better train, but we need some distance from it. It's been a few days. All of your takes were great, 5 points all around. Which means that we have John and Alex bringing up the rear. Andy with a great comeback falls up short, and Brit is our winner of our final panel here. Brit, here's your FaceTime. Talk about whatever Rick and Morty for 30 seconds.
Do you think there will be a Beth versus Clone Beth face-off? Like a Revenge of the Clones episode? They haven't made fun of Star Wars a whole lot yet, and I'm really hoping they get in there. Really hoping. Especially with the new Star Wars movies coming out, especially one in December, which I'm really excited about. And,
what about the president?
Oh my god, he's beautiful. He's real buff. He's a real buff. Also, I like that there was basically, one of his advisors was basically Steve Bannon. Like, he's short and fat and has, like, the mole on his neck. He was the goblin character, so he was really funny. I enjoyed, like, his staff was pretty great. Pretty great.
Yeah. Okay, Brit.
Do you think that Rick and Mr. President will ever acknowledge their love for each other?
No. But in your fanfic, yes.
See, I think we can combine
10 points to whoever writes me a fanfic.
We can combine these two things of the Star Wars reference and their love for each other. There's like the Spaceballs thing where they're fighting each other with lightsabers that look like their penis or something. So you can have
also like them just like admitting that they love each other and just making out like it's a bad action movie. That would be my dream. That would be my dream.
Also, season
But then
4
it
will be
turns out it's actually clone Rick, and then real Rick comes in and stabs him.
Writing the fic right now.
Season 4 will be out in time to parody episode 9.
Exactly. Basically.
That's what I'm really hoping for.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that
I need something to like concise to hold me over till the next 2 years till we get another.
Actually, that's a good question. What will come out first, the new season of Game of Thrones or the new season of Rick and Morty?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
It's going to be close. They're both going to take. They're both maybe not until 2019. So that's going to.
Oh no! Well,
right. Like I think they're both favorite.
Both
are favorites not to air in 2018. I would say. So that's going to be fun. Unless the Rick and Morty production has a higher chance of getting its shit together. But Game of I don't know.
I could have a bachelor's degree before they both air.
No context for that reference, but okay. Yeah.
The funny thing is like when I looked back at the season 2 stinger, it's Mr. Poopy Butthole saying, "Well, the show will be back in like a year and a half." He was right.
He was right. It was about exactly that. And this
back
time they weren't.
They
weren't even willing to say a year and a half. This time they just said later, a lot later. So.
Yeah, because like a problem I have is like with season 3, when you have to talk about it, you also have to consider the artificial time they gave themselves to finish it by. So that's always going to like mar the discussion of the season, like what it could have been.
Don't judge it based on how long it takes. You don't really we don't really know what's going on.
I'm not judging it, but I'm just saying like it's smarter of them to make it open ended. Like give yourself the time that you need to make it good. Don't stunt yourself by giving a date that you need to finish it by.
End it strong. Like end it strong. This season, it's like we'd like a great season with a great ending. We don't want a fantastic season with a dud of a finale.
Right, which is I think it's ironic that they took so long in the season and the ending felt very rushed. I think Dan Harmon's learned the lesson, and that the moral of the story is that you need to just not get caught up on a few episodes because clearly certain episodes were taking them a long time. I'm not sure which ones. Like, was it Tales from the Citadel that took them forever?
I think that one took a long time to animate.
That was 95% just to boil it. I mean,
I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical because it came together so well. I feel like the lesson Dan Harmon has said he learned is that more time doesn't help. So like, it might even be the middle of the season episodes. I think that's possible.
Like the Vindicator's taking a long time.
Right, one's like that. Although I don't think Vindicator is one of my bottom 3, so I'm different than
it's like you guys. They really wanted this season to be like the best season they could possibly ever write, and they might have. And it's like you could probably tell. It's like maybe they stayed a little bit too much in their head, and they had to do a lot of writes, but.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we will find out in about 2 years when season 4 comes. Brit's really calling her stake in her. She used her FaceTime to call this Clone Beth versus Beth stake. We'll see if she's right. Never. So.
If I'm right, can I get like 30 points?
We won't be bringing the panel back, but you can get the points on whatever iteration is done. Exactly. Thank you. So that's it for our panel this year. We might have a panel during the off season. I don't know. We already did like a mid-season evaluation. I don't know if we have enough questions for season evaluation panel, but we'll see.
We can have we could do a whole season, but instead have like the audience give us points and see who wins.
That panel's gonna take like a week.
I don't know how that works. We'll workshop the idea. Live panel.
If this is the last season, who's the big like grand champion? Who won the most panels?
I think that it is a tie between Brit and Alex and April and John.
Like everybody won 2.
Except for Andy, right? I don't think Andy won 2.
I won one panel.
So Andy is the big loser. It's more like who's not the big winner, it's who's the big loser. And
said you get one there, didn't you know it?
And Michelle won one as well, and she only appeared on like 2. So I think Michelle wins because she's the highest conversion rate. Yeah, you won 2, Britt. So,
is there a trophy shaped like a Jerry we can get?
A Jerry trophy?
For the loser.
For Andy, yeah. Okay. Wow. We're calling Andy Jerry for the next 2 years until Rick and Morty season.
All right, I'm changing him in my Skype name. Your name is now going to be Jerry.
Okay.
Wow, fuck you. Fuck you.
That's an appropriate punishment.
Well, you're welcome.
I have to add you to contacts
Yeah, I
first.
don't know.
Hold on.
Brutal. That was brutal. Okay, to be fair, Andy was not on half of the panel, so his conversion rate is about the same as the rest of yours, I would say. There you go. So there you go. That's that. Like I said, that's our panel. We will be continuing. Thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you so much, guys, for listening throughout our entire season 3 coverage of Rick and Morty. These podcasts got a lot of hits for us. You guys, you guys were great. We had a lot of fun doing 2 podcasts a week on the show. If you enjoyed our content here, then first of all, stick with our Rick and Morty feed, Overly Animated Rick and Morty, search for that, because we will be, I'm aiming for a Rick and Morty podcast next week of some sort. And then sporadically, maybe every other week or something for a little bit, we'll continue that. We do cover a bunch of other shows, like at least 10 other shows here on Overly Animated, overlyanimated.com. Maybe if you liked us discussing this, you'll like us discussing another show. So Voltron, season 4 is coming out next week on Netflix. I think that is,
Is it really?
Yeah, I know. God. We're right into new shows, but I think that's a show you guys are most likely to like. Star vs. the Force of Evil. I plug these like every week, but Star vs. Force of Evil season 3 is continuing in November. That's Rick and Morty for kids. If you can get into more kid-centric shows, like I think that's the one you guys are most likely to like. BoJack Horseman.
It is very cute. I have watched a few episodes.
Yeah.
Who's the Jerry of Star Wars: The Forces of Evil? Is it Tom?
Probably, yeah. I think Marco kind of functions as the Jerry sometimes.
No. Marco doesn't deserve that.
Sometimes. What was the next show I was saying?
Ludo's
Jerry. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What was the next show I was going to say? Oh, BoJack Horseman, season 4 just concluded. We covered every episode of that. You can find our coverage later. That's on Netflix. Voltron's on Netflix. Star is, you can search on demand on Disney. We also have Ruby and Miraculous Ladybug coverage coming up next, and Mysticon's continued. None of those are shows I'd immediately think you guys would like, Rick and Morty fans, but you could check them out anyway. Ruby's kind of an action-centric show. It's on Rooster Teeth. If you guys are Rooster Teeth fans, we do coverage of that, of the upcoming season.
It's coming out next
weekend as well. Yes, very busy. All that. It's like, if you liked our Rick and Morty podcast, continue subscribing to you could subscribe to our main feed, just search Overly Animated, or subscribe to one of our other show specific feeds, or visiting on YouTube, just subscribe there so you can get all of our content. We don't have specific feeds on YouTube, but, yeah, I just, we're covering a bunch of these animated shows. You like Rick and Morty, and it's animated, and it proves that animation's legitimate. So check out some other animated stuff. That would be my pitch to you guys. So, overlyanimated.com for all that. And yeah, thank you guys very much. Thank you to our panelists here, and April and Michelle. You guys did great all season long. Michelle and Delaney on the recaps. Great job. And I
agree, they do a very good job.
Kudos to me for surviving the 2 Rick and Morty podcasts a week. So there we go. We will, and Alex hosted one too. Yeah, and there you go. So all of us, we did it. Reward us by giving us an iTunes review. How about that? Overlyanimated.com/iTunes for our main feed. You guys know our Rick and Morty specific feed. We actually do an iTunes review of the week. This is from Johnny Mac 24.
Oh.
Johnny Mac is a prominent Big Brother player. I don't think that's him. Who says, great show, entertaining to supplement to my shows, was the title. Found this podcast group last week and I love it. It's great to listen to after I watch my favorite animated series on the way to work. It's a nice listen and a great conversation. All the thoughts I have about the episode. Spoilers, of course. Great podcast. That's not very Rick and Morty specific, but yes, thank you, Johnny Mac, very much. Please leave us some positive iTunes reviews. And when I say leave iTunes reviews, I'm not going to highlight the 2 and 3 star ones, guys, but you can leave your honest thoughts. That's fine. But that would help us grow. Very much appreciate it. The other big way to support us is via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. That's like direct financial contributions. You guys should totally support your favorite content creators through Patreon. Just in general.
Give us money, please.
You can, thanks to all of our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Damien, aka Diamond Day. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Andy. We're back with more Rick and Morty coverage next week. We have a bunch of other stuff coming up at Overly Animated com, including our Miraculous Ladybug season 2 preview. That's being recorded tomorrow. And it's going to be, you guys should totally, that's on Netflix too. Easy marathon. Probably not the same demographic as the show, but all this content. We had Neo Yokio recap. That's more our style. And all this stuff. Overlyanimated.com. Find out all of it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks, panelists. Yay, we did it. We'll be back for more Rick and Morty later.
We did it. Bestie move. Hooray!
Hooray.
Dora the Explorer, another show Rick and Morty fans
No,
will
we don't
love.
cover Dora, sorry. But just...
Also,
we don't.
Steven Universe is on a hiatus
anymore,
as long as Rick and Morty.
Yeah, we'll see what comes back. That's the question. What comes back first, Steven Universe or Rick and Morty? Okay, well, on that note, thank you guys very much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Adios.
Bye. Take care.